Island Explorers. We are so excited to have you out here on Masonboro Island today. My name is Jane. This is Jackie. We work with Carolina Ocean Studies, and we have 4 Masonboro Island Connection student scientists with us today. We have Ivy, we have Michaela, we have Derek, and we have Mackenzie. And today we're going to do a quick explore of the exciting ecosystems that you can find out here on Masonboro Island. Masonboro Island has several dynamic ecosystems. Dynamic means they are always changing. And when you think about an ecosystem, you have to think about the abiotic factors and the biotic factors. That's part of why they're always changing. And some of these ecosystems are aquatic ecosystems, which mean they have plenty of access to water all the time, every day, doesn't matter about the weather. But some of these are terrestrial ecosystems, which means that depending on the daily weather and the changes in the seasonal weather, their water is a limiting factor. There may not be a lot of water in those terrestrial ecosystems. So as the camera kind of gives you a full view of all of the ecosystems here on Masonboro, I want you to use your powers of observation. I want you to perhaps notice differences in the biotic plants. Maybe you're even going to be able to notice a difference in the abiotic soil, and for sure I think you're going to be able to notice a difference in the shape of the land. So I want you to be using those powers of observation to see if you can maybe identify where some of those ecosystems start and a different one begins as well. And that's pretty much it for this intro. We're very excited to get to our very first ecosystem. Let's go, guys.
Welcome, island explorers, to this maritime forest found on the south end of Masonboro Island. Well, what is a maritime forest? Well, the word maritime means near the sea. So a maritime forest is found close enough to the coast to experience the wind and the salt spray coming off the ocean. What do I spy over there? Mackenzie. Yeah, she's back in our forest, and I see that she's near some shrubs and a cedar tree. All right, don't go climbing that tree, Mackenzie. And Michaela, she's over here checking out the shrubs. Well, we do have a lot of biotic factors in our maritime forests, like trees and shrubs and other plants. And they must be able to live in a sandy, abiotic, dry soil. Derek, what do I see you looking through those binoculars? What do you see?
I see 2 great white egrets in the distance resting on a tree.
Yes, we have other biotic factors that are found here in our maritime forest. If you look carefully, you might even see some deer, or maybe in the early morning, you might even see some raccoon coming out. Well, this maritime forest, with all its trees and its shrubs, you'll notice there's not a lot of water, but there's enough water for it to survive. So this happens to be a terrestrial ecosystem, fairly dry. So what we need to do is take a nice drink of our water and hydrate, and let's get on to the next ecosystem.
All right, well, welcome to the salt marsh ecosystem out here on Masonboro Island. The salt marsh is an aquatic ecosystem, but you may be asking, what is a salt marsh? A salt marsh is a coastal area of the land with brackish water. Our salt marsh out here on Masonboro has brackish water because conveniently located way to my south and a little bit to my west is the Cape Fear River, fresh water, flowing towards our Atlantic Ocean that has salty water. When those two waters meet, the fresh water and the salt water, and they mix together, that's how we get our brackish water. And during high tides and even low tides, we're getting brackish water into our salt marsh. Hey kids, do you think we're at High tide or low tide? What do you think? Oh no! What do you guys think? High tide or low tide? Low tide. You are correct, it is low tide. Oh no! Michaela, oh my gosh, be careful. Our pluff mud, Michaela is standing in our abiotic pluff mud out here in our salt marsh, and especially at low tide, you can get stuck all the way up to her knees. And look at it, it looks like she's been up to her knees already. Her dad's gonna come save her from our abiotic soil out here in our salt marsh. All right, let's go over to Derek. Derek, I want you to gently feel that grass. What does it feel like? It is very sharp. Our cord grass is a biotic factor you find in our salt marsh. It is sharp. It is one of the toughest grasses on the face of this earth, and there is no biotic creature on Masonboro that can digest it. And as far as we look, we can see salt marsh cord grass. And everybody say, yeehaw! Yeehaw! Deep breath in. Let it out. One more. Let it out. You are able to breathe that oxygen partly because our salt marsh cord grass is taking the energy from the sun and through a process called photosynthesis, making its own energy and leaving off oxygen. So as far as I can see, there's a lot of producing going on out here today, which is awesome. Oh my gosh, Mackenzie, what do you have in your hand? What do you have?
Something. Are you wondering?
A snail. Where did you find it?
What is?
On the grass. You may be wondering something. Are you wondering something? What is it?
Island Connection scientists.
One of the things I love about our Masonboro Island Connection scientists is that they ask questions. They observe things. Brilliant observation. Our periwinkle snails are another biotic factor that we find out here in our salt marsh, and we do find them on the cord grass. During low tide, you're going to find them down near the water, and then during high tide, they're going to be moving up that cord grass. We're going to keep those gills that they have close to the water, but not close enough that they're going to get eaten by a predator. But they are eating something, Mackenzie, you're right, but they're not eating the cord grass. They're eating microscopic algae on the cord grass. So the periwinkle snails and the cord grass are kind of have a really interesting relationship. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. Who's ready for the next ecosystem? Except for poor Michaela, who may be stuck in our ecosystem forever. We're ready. We're going to take a hop, skip, and a jump, literally a hop and a skip and a jump in our next ecosystem. All right, mixed scientists, well, welcome to the Tidal Creek ecosystem. The Tidal Creek ecosystem and the salt marsh ecosystems work together. They're interdependent, like all ecosystems. But it's really obvious with the salt creek or the salt marsh and the Tidal Creek ecosystems. Some of the things they work together to do is after a rainstorm, they will filter the water. They filter out pollutants. They filter out nutrients. Our tidal creeks help protect our island from flooding. That abiotic tide that we talked about with the salt marsh, that's impacting our tidal creeks all the time. We're here at low tide, so you can kind of make out how my tidal creek is winding out into the salt marsh. But at high tide, it would be a lot more obvious. The one thing I really want you to remember, though, when you think about our tidal creek ecosystems, is that these aquatic ecosystems are nurseries. And when I say the word nursery, I hope you think about babies, because these tidal creeks are wonderful nurseries for so many of our marine animals that are born or spawned out in the ocean. If they're lucky enough to make it through that web, that food web, back into our tidal creeks, they're going to find protection, they're going to find nutrients, and they're going to grow to get big enough to make it back into our marine ecosystem. You may find drum, you may find baby flounders, you may find shrimp in our tidal creeks. Those are examples of some of our juvenile fish and our invertebrates that we do find out here in our tidal creeks. Because it's low tide, I know behind me you'll be able to see another biotic creature that lives in our tidal creeks, and those are our oysters. And oysters are really important bioindicators for a lot of our aquatic ecosystems. They tell us a lot about the health of our aquatic ecosystems. So that's pretty much it for our Tidal Creek introduction, but I do want you guys to be ready for our next ecosystem because it's a whopper. I'm gonna give you a hint. Da 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 da. Surf's up!
Well, welcome island explorers to the ocean ecosystem. Here we are at the edge of Masonboro Island, looking at a very large body of water. The ocean is a large saltwater aquatic ecosystem. It covers about 70% of our Earth. Even though it's one big ocean, there are different named oceans within a particular area. For instance, right here we have the Atlantic Ocean, but on the west coast we have the Pacific Ocean. And we have other named oceans by their particular area. So we have within our one big ocean, 5 oceans: the Atlantic, the Pacific, we have the Arctic Ocean, we have the Southern Ocean, and we have Indian Ocean. Very good. All right, students, right now we're going to experience some abiotic factors right here at their ocean. Let's take a few steps into our ocean water. All right, that's good. Feel that, feel that. All right, great, good job. All right, can you feel some abiotic factors lapping around your legs, Derek? Yes, those are the waves. That's one abiotic factor of our ocean. And can you feel the wind blowing through your hair, Ivy and Kayla? We see the wind blowing. Yes, another abiotic factor. And oh no, Mackenzie, don't drink that water. It's too salty for you. Oh no. Yes, our ocean water has lots of salt in it. It has high salinity, and that means the amount of salt that's found in our water. Well, those are some of the abiotic factors of our ocean. We've got wind, we've got salt, and we have waves. Very good. But there are biotic factors out here in our ocean. We may not see them now, but let's call out a few of those. What might they be? Give me one, Derek. A shark. What else, Mackenzie? A dolphin. What about you, Ivy?
A sea turtle?
A sea turtle. Okay, what about you?
Manta.
All right, so we've got all these biotic animals that are out there. We also have some plants that are out there in our ecosystem, some producers. Can you name one, Derek? Phytoplankton? Yes, that's a small microscopic animal. And what about another one, Mackenzie?
Seaweed.
Oh yeah, seaweed. There are all kinds of seaweed. Well, let's get going to the next ecosystem and learn about the tides. Welcome, island explorers, to the beach ecosystem. What a great place to hang out on a hot summer day or take a walk along the beach and collect shells. But there's more here than what meets the eye. Let's take a closer look at this ecosystem that can be quite a bit aquatic and a little bit terrestrial. The beach is an area at the edge of the sea and the land. Because the tide covers and uncovers the beach, it's sometimes considered aquatic and sometimes considered terrestrial. The beach extends out into the ocean and may be only visible at low tide. Oh, I'd forgotten about my towel, and that's those tides, that tide abiotic factor getting it wet. As the waves come in and go out, Michaela is looking for mole crabs, a biotic factor, this live mole crab living down in the sand. Hopefully she'll have some good luck. Ivy and Mackenzie are working, making sand castles with another abiotic factor found on our beach ecosystem. Masonboro sand is made mostly of the mineral quartz. There are other minerals mixed in, but quartz is the most abundant. Now mixed in along that sand are shells, plants, and animals, might be microscopic, and so we even have detritus, dead decaying matter. So our sand right here on Masonboro Island, another abiotic factor of this ocean ecosystem. Derek, watch out, you might get pinched. That's a ghost crab hole. And the ghost crabs are a biotic factor here on Masonboro Island in our dry terrestrial portion of our ecosystem. But those ghost crabs, they need to scurry down to the water's edge to wet their gills so that they can breathe. So we might see them moving back and forth throughout the day from the terrestrial to the aquatic ecosystem. Well, good job finding that hole. So, island explorers, we are here again at our ocean ecosystem, standing on the terrestrial portion of it, looking out at our beautiful aquatic portion of our ecosystem. But you know what? We better hydrate because we are moving on to the next ecosystem, and it's pretty dry, a lot like a desert. So let's go, come on.
All right, well, welcome to your last exciting ecosystem that we're going to explore today out on Masonboro Island. It's the sand dune ecosystem. It is a terrestrial ecosystem, and it's super important for Masonboro and actually very important for the mainland as well. But we actually had to walk pretty far to find dunes today because already, even though it's late August, we've already had a lot of storms, including one hurricane that has those abiotic winds have really wreaked havoc with our dune ecosystems. But our dune ecosystems are terrestrial. They have limited water. Limited water depends on our rainfall and specifically also on our climate, the weather of our seasonal weather changes. So very limiting factor, the water in our dune ecosystems. I think Jackie said a lot like a desert ecosystem. But I do want all of my mixed scientists to turn around and show us what you guys have on the back of your shirts. Turn around. Do you guys know what's on the back of your shirts? Sea turtles. And sea turtles are actually a biotic factor that you might find out here on a moonlit night. You guys can go ahead and explore the dune ecosystem now. But those sea turtles, those female sea turtles, will make their way from the ocean ecosystem up onto the beach ecosystem, all the way up into our dunes, and then they're going to dig a pit. They're going to lay 80 to 120 eggs. They're going to cover them up and make their way back out to that ocean ecosystem. Those little hatchlings, those eggs, really depend on the abiotic factors here in the dune system to develop. During the day, the abiotic temperature is going to rise. That heat level is going to help those eggs develop. And it's actually going to determine whether they're male or female when they hatch. So that dune ecosystem is really important for those sea turtles. You may see some plants in the distance. Those are sea oats. Those sea oats are also very important for our dunes because their roots are what's helping hold those dunes in place. And our dunes are so important, not just for our sea turtles. If we didn't have dunes, we may not have any hatchlings or sea turtles, and they are endangered. But we also wouldn't have the protection for the mainland. And you'll notice that my mixed scientists are being really careful not to step on the dunes. That's because they're being good stewards. And that means that they are protecting this ecosystem, just like they've been protecting all of the exciting ecosystems we've explored today. Because, believe it or not, all of these ecosystems are interdependent and connected to the ecosystems in your backyard. They work together out here on Masonboro, and they're interconnected to your ecosystems back where you live and all of the global ecosystems in all of the world. So these out here in Masonboro, they are protected. There are laws that protect them. This is why when you look around, you see beautiful ecosystems left and right, really able to exist and flourish on their own without much human intervention. But back where your ecosystem is, maybe you can be a really good steward in your ecosystem, because what you do at home impacts these ecosystems here. Picking up your trash, sorting your trash, conserving your water, all of those things are going to make a difference out here on Masonboro. So we were excited to have you here today, guys, out here on Masonboro Island. So excited about our mixed students and our scientists, and we really hope that you know a little bit more about the exciting ecosystems you can find out here on Masonboro Island.